Really?
Yeah.
In GTA?
I didn't do shit. I didn't do shit.
Where you grew up?
Cincinnati, Ohio, man. But I'm gonna tell you what helped my case. For some reason, bro, God let me and my co-defendant go to court together in the same Sally Port. And he said, look, bro, I ain't gonna lie. He said, bro, I'm gonna go ahead and take 4 years, bro. Go take care of my nephew. Oh yeah?
That's good.
He took 4 years, and they let me go.
That's good. That's good.
Damn.
But after that?
I'm still going to jail. Catching more cases, more robberies, and like that.
You been in the jail? For
Huh?
For how long you been in the jail?
As long as I did was like 13, 14 months. And then I would go to jail.
Could you box there or no?
I mean, not legally, but I was picking people up though.
Yeah, like a...
Is that water or liquor?
Yeah.
Why don't you drink?
Because so I have a competition next weekend.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, but like even off season, I don't drink.
Right.
How you act when you're drunk? You never been drunk?
No, never.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, you missing out, man.
So
I feel sorry for you, man.
I went to jail if I was drunk.
No, I like myself so much. What's up, Goat? What's up, Goat? How are you? Pucho in check. Yeah, what up? Pucho in check. Pucho!
Hey.
So, listen. This is when I go somewhere who drinks.
And I'm on my way there now. I'll be there shortly. I'm taking the swimming boot. You ready? Here we go.
But what happened? And yeah, you was fire back then. Now we new niggas getting money stacking. stacking. You used to be hot, but what happened? And yeah, you was fire back then. Now we new niggas getting money
Take
stacking.
a walk out here. It's a real nice day out here today. Y'all should get out here and catch some of this breeze.
Let me see you bounce like a bunny, being joke in a damn lane funny. Let me see you pop a bottle with honey, so the honey, so this broke, you got a pocket for the money. Pocket for the money, pocket for the money, pocket for the money, pocket for the money, pocket for the money. Bounce like a bunny, boy bunny. Being broke is a joke and a damn thing funny. Let me see you pop a bottle with honey, so the honey, so this broke, you got a pocket for the money. Pocket for the money, 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 pocket for the money. Let me see you bounce like a bunny, boy bunny. Being broke in a damn lane funny. Let me see you pop a bottle with honey, so the honey, so this broke, you got a pocket for the money. Pocket for the money, 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 pocket for the money. Let me see you bounce like a playboy bunny. Being broke is a joke and a damn thing funny. Let me see you pop a bottle with ace for the honey, so these broke niggas like you got a pocket for the money. Pocket for the money, pocket for the money, pocket for the money, pocket for the money, pocket for the money. Let me see you bounce like a bunny, boy bunny. Being broke in a damn lane funny. Let me see you pop a bottle with honey, so the honey, so these broke, you got a pocket for the money. Pocket for the money, 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 pocket for the money. Let me see you bounce like a playboy bunny. Being broke is a joke and a damn thing funny. Let me see you pop a bottle with ace for the honey, so these broke, you got a pocket for the money. Pocket for the money, 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 pocket for the money. Let me see you bounce like a bunny, being broke in a damn lane funny. Let me see you pop a bottle with honey, so the honey, so these broke, you got a pocket for the money. Pocket for the money, 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 pocket for the money. Let me see you bounce like a playboy bunny. Being broke is a joke and a damn thing funny. Let me see you pop a bottle with ace for the honey, so these broke, you got a pocket for the money. Pocket for the money, 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 pocket for the money. Let me see you bounce like a bunny, boy bunny. Being broke in a damn lane funny. Let me see you pop a bottle with honey, so the honey, so these broke, you got a pocket for the money. Pocket for the money, 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 pocket for the money. Let me see you bounce like a playboy bunny. Being broke is a joke and a damn thing funny. Let me see you pop a bottle with ace for the honey, so these broke, you got a pocket for the money. Pocket for the money, 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 pocket for the money. Let me see you bounce like a bunny, boy bunny. Being broke in a damn lane funny. Let me see you pop a bottle with ace for the honey, so these broke, you got a pocket for the money. Pocket for the money, 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 pocket for the money. Bounce like a bunny, boy bunny. Being broke is a joke and a damn thing funny. Let me see you pop a bottle with ace for the honey, so these broke niggas like you got a pocket for the money. Pocket for the money, 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 pocket for the money.
Keep working on this, man. You gonna have to bring that thing back to New York City.
Speaking cold is the way things to go that way. wish a nigga would've wanna pop a nigga top. Early in the morning, cash said to the shop, I got fiends on the block. I know they wanna cop for me. Cats hustling, but they doing this sloppery. The only game we playing is Monopoly. Yes, sir. I got the good cop for me. You know what nigga was hook you up to the problem. Lord have mercy on me. Have mercy. Have mercy. Have mercy. Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy on me. Here we go. We can go this way, things can go that way. See the wrong thing in it. All comes back. I got some kitty club fitted. I'm about that bread for these niggas bullshitting. 6 a.m. in the morning, phone still ringing, so these still responding. She want credit, can't pay you better. Eventually, mommy, you gon' lay me better. I'm feeling horny with fucking the back. Drug out, pussy, to get my dicks up. Lord have mercy on me. Have mercy. Have mercy. Have mercy. Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy on me. Here we go. We can go this way. Things get all back. Yes, sir. Yeah. Yes, sir.
I just want to make sure that everybody have a good time. Tonight is trouble.
What's really good with the aggression? Question, haven't you all learned your lesson? I take a blessing and run with it, but I'ma keep playing with this game till I'm done with it. I know you feel a little dumb with it. You worry about the chick, but I done hit it. And had plenty of fun with it. Why you mad at me? She put cheeks and Sean with it. I took your chicken to the Aspen, send her back to you with a pocket full of aspirin. And when you ask her where her ass been, somewhere fucking up in Aspen. We individually fall back. Mommy, won't you tell me what you call that? I know you think your shit is all that, but why you think that you deserve a callback? No more lies.
I just want to make sure that everybody has a good time tonight on the show. And I'm on my way there now. I'll be there shortly. To the greatest club in the motherfucking world.
Have mercy, Lord have mercy on me. Have mercy, have mercy, have mercy. Cause things can go this way, things can go that way. Say the wrong thing and it all comes back. To the guns, yes, sir. To the block. Super cat is about to open up shop. I got to get up, go cap. I got fiends on the block, and I know they wanna cry for me. Cats claim hustle doing it so sloppery. The only game I'm playing is Monopoly, and I do it so properly. There ain't no motherfucking way in hell you niggas stop. Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy on me. Have mercy, have mercy, have mercy. Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy on me. Here we go, 'cause we can fluctuate, things can go that away. Say the wrong thing and it all comes back. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Harlem Grand on the rise. Thank you, thank you. I'm not number, couldn't be the, wouldn't be the, never the, I'm the. I must be the. I couldn't be the, wouldn't be the, shouldn't be the, never be the, I'm number. Must be the. See you a number. I am number. You a number. I am number. No, I'm number. I gotta be the. I know that you the. Your man is the. His man is the. His man is the. But I'm the. Understand that I'm the.
They said I was a dreamer, a young kid from the streets of New York, with nothing but money talk. But we can have the same conversation, dude, every time we meet. But it's just the feast of purpose, don't pay for the cost of the beat. See, everything costs cash and everybody want bread, but I just fall back and don't let it fuck with my head because I'm older now. I got time to chill, fall back and lounge around, nigga. But understand the pressure I'm under, the kind that make you sit and just wonder, the kind that make you wonder what's next. Do I gotta grab the shotty and the bulletproof vest? When I think about my sons and my daughter, I snap back to reality. I done forfeited my life for the child of me. So now I reminisce the days of the wild of me when all them young chicks were fouling me. Contrary to popular belief, I'm the big kahuna, the big chief. I'll be that. Yup, I'm calling all the shots. I'll be running on the floor like a crack spot. You know I make it hot. And if I short my funds, I give cats the runs. When I tamper with guns, my dividends and funds. My daughter or my son, shorty with nice buns or a healthy set of twin guns. It's only popping when I'm rolling through your hood, G. Cats fall back, they know what it could be when shorty touching the coochie in the back of the whip, telling stories how she used to strip. I don't flip, nah, I just hop inside, toss the keys to my tell him drive. We headed to the east side. Here I come, baby. I'm caught up in a sticky situation lately. Cats hate, dying to deflate me, but see they greatly underestimate me. Yeah. Even when the hood is hot, we still get up to go out whether you like it or not. We got cash punching the clock, trying to stack they ones. When I be up in the tully, getting up in some buns, giving shorties the runs, trying to handle the cop. I be hearing them rumors when I'm out on the block. How you shorties taking the cop up in the back of the truck when D be up in the cuss and we're just not giving a fuck.
Hey yo, and make sure you check us out at 1hgm.com for that raw and uncut hip hop and R&B.
They want to see niggas die.
Nah, I ain't gonna lie. Can't do 5 right now. 3.
Yeah, like we in camp.
Yeah. 5
Camp yet?
5 would be too much right now. I ain't gonna lie.
That's what we doing. They trolling. Gotta be. Nigga said 5s. There's always a vibe here. What happened to your hand? The fight? I think I like sprained it. Or just bruised. Swelling went down though, but it's still hella tender on my knuckle. Good, bro. Great. Hell yeah. Come on. Come on. All right, y'all.
Please. Please.
Look over there. Over here.
We're going first. Yeah, she won. 2 shots first.
2 shots first?
2 shots. All straight through. 2 shots, yeah. 2 shots, 2 shots. Everything 2 shots. What's she up with the timer?
Bad kind of stall.
We going.
Maybe paddles.
3 minutes.
3 minutes right now?
Paddles, not mitts. Still hurt.
Tell me. Come on. Everything 2. Do everything right. Do everything right, girl. 2. Just 2.
Hey, maybe we should get. We should do the same bag. But.
Ain't no room, is it?
Huh?
I know what you're trying to do.
Yeah. No, right here?
Well.
Yeah. Right here?
So, everything 2s, bro. Everything
Like
2.
2 shots, right?
Yeah.
Right. I just can't throw my right hand, so I'm just.
Okay.
Yeah. That'd be tender still.
The shots. Oh my God. Okay. My God.
Time? We got 2 more rounds. Where the water? Chat, how I'm looking? How we looking? I know AB looking good. How I'm looking though? Come on. AB, they said how good it feels back to be in the gym. They said how good it feels to be back in the gym.
Feel good as I love this. I fell in love with boxing before I fell in love with a girl, man.
Keep going. W.
I love this.
All right, grab the phone. Get some BTS.
Let's go, bro. You going ones, bro?
Ones?
You hear me?
It sucks. I hate that I can't throw my right hand, but it's fine.
Going ones.
All right.
Give us another 3 minutes.
This is a shot I want to throw too, but.
Take your time. Take your time. You want every shot to be a good shot. Boom. There you go. Go. There you go. There you go. There you go. There you go. Yeah. Let it go. There you go. Sometimes you gotta still on it. Get out the way. Stay focused, gang.
Huh?
Stay focused. Look.
No, because I can't hit it with it.
I know.
Should I do it anyway?
No. Power control. You can still control it.
Okay.
It ain't gotta be hard. Look. Hey, I would have seen that before you like this. Just let it go. Look. It don't matter where it's at. Wow. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I loaded it. Said I loaded that.
Yeah. Just let it go. Look.
I ain't throwing that again. I actually hurt.
You done?
Yeah.
Even with the lead hook, you can do the same thing. Feint first, though. Feint first. You done? There you go. Let it go. You still carrying those. Let it go. Look. I'm done. There you go.
That was it.
There you go. Good stab, boy. Good stab. Step through it. There you go. There you go.
Coffee though.
Again.
Coffee with them beans.
Go back down there one more time.
You ever peeped how some conversations start in one place and end somewhere completely different? A person starts talking about race, somebody else starts talking about responsibility, culture, then policy, then somehow you standing in a council meeting arguing about the American flag. That's literally today's video, not because these clips are saying the exact same thing, because they're not, but because they are all accidentally orbiting the same question. What happens when a society spends more time assigning blame than assigning responsibility? Let's get into it.
This is the thing with white people. White people have tried to convince everybody that they are superior because they are insecure. White people have no purpose up until the moment somebody else creates something. White people don't come up with shit on their own. Their culture is literally conquering everybody else's shit. Okay? This is the thing. If all of us collectively realize that they have no purpose, they serve no purpose, they don't create nothing, they will no longer have any power. Their power comes from us believing that they are better than everybody else when they literally have no fucking purpose. They are fucking useless up until the point somebody else creates something for them to steal. This is why I will never give a fuck about anything they have to say. And I know who I am. I just wish other black black people knew who they were, truly knew who they were. Bitch, a person who cannot create shit on their own, you have to wait literally for somebody else to create something in order for you to have a purpose. Bitch, you can't tell me anything. They could leave 1,000 fucking hate comments on my page. I swear for God, it holds no weight because, bitch, you're fucking useless.
See, the first thing I want y'all to notice isn't even what she.
Give it up for Kingdom Reacts. Kingdom Reacts.
So, this is what she's talking to, right? White people, the unspoken space. Not here's my argument, let's have a discussion. The entire setup is built around provoking a reaction. And that's become its own genre, on and offline. The goal isn't understanding, the goal is engagement. It's almost like modern social media figured out that outrage, it travels faster than wisdom. Now, whether you agree with her or disagree with her, that's not even the interesting part to me. The interesting part is that millions of people have started treating entire groups of people like individual human beings no longer exist. Everything becomes team versus team, race versus race, group versus group. And the second that happens, nobody actually has to think anymore. Because once you reduce somebody to a category, you've already decided who they are before they open their mouths. But then this next clip, it takes the conversation in a direction most people just weren't expecting.
Man, in this video right here, I'm just following my heart. Because I truly live for God. Because I ain't got time for all the BS be going on in the world. This right here is a white man. This is a white brother right here. You know what we just did together? But that's like 9 pallets of blocks. With about 100 apiece on the pallets. We just stacked about, maybe 900 goddamn blocks? Yeah. 900 blocks out here in 93, 94 degree weather. And we didn't stop. We got our breaks, and we fought together to the end.
And we didn't argue?
We didn't argue. We had a good time. We talked about family.
And God.
And God. Exactly what we talked about. And we just had a man-to-man talk, just men talk as men. So, man, it's just a powerful moment because all this going on in this world with this media right now, my heart led me to make this video right here because this is so important. This is a spiritual warfare, not a black and white fight. This is spiritual. This is God versus the devil. This is heart versus heart. Do you got a heart of heart? Do you got a heart of love? Do you have a heart of gold? That's what this fight is about. But the people upstairs that run the show, they're going to try to divide us with color. It's not a color fight. It's where your heart at. What you going to die for? Who you going to die for? You're going to die for Christ. You're going to die for your people. You're going to die for humanity. You're going to, I won't say die, but live, but you know what I'm saying? You're going to put your life on the line to make this a better place for everybody. This is what it's about. So my heart led me to make this video, and I just wanted to make this video because I want this to go around the world, and I hope this brings positive impact because I work with a lot of white people, and I love white people. I love black people. How I see it is, people going to treat you how you treat yourself.
Yep.
So if you come off, energy's everything. If you come off like you feeling some type of way about a person, they're gonna feel that and they're gonna be standoffish. But if you come with a loving spirit, how you doing, what going on, like you just want to enjoy the presence of the person, they're gonna give you that back. That's the power of love. You gotta have that vibration. You gotta get the head out your heart. Yep. So I just wanted to make this video, man. I appreciate you, brother. Before he left, I let him back in my truck, man. He came by, he said we did it together, brother. Yep. So that's what it's about. All right, y'all. Share this video. See you.
See, this is what caught my attention because while everybody else is arguing about how people should treat them, this guy starts out with how you treat yourself. That's a completely different starting point, and whether you agree with every word or not, I do. There's something powerful about that because responsibility is one of the few things nobody can take from you. People can disrespect you. People can overlook you. People can underestimate you, but self-respect starts as an inside job. The reason this clip hits so hard online is because it's simple. No buzzwords, no villains, no enemies. Just a reminder that how you carry yourself matters. And in 2026, man, simple truths almost sound rebellious. But then the conversation gets even more uncomfortable. Not because of race, not because of politics. Because now the mirror gets pointed inward.
Since people said it's not the black culture, let me tell you what the black culture music promotes. Sex, lust, killing each other, murder. They actually put it in their song that they killed somebody. Talk about robbery, beating cases, shooting people, taking money, making money, scamming, being promiscuous, being a baby mama, sleeping around. The music of the black culture is trash, is garbage. I don't know how you guys don't see it. Look at the influencers who are black, who has millions of followers. What do they promote? Sex, sin, violence, killing, baby mamas, scammers. You guys are, how are we not aware of what we're seeing? Who's bashing the black community when literally we got eyes to see what is wrong with the community? All the celebrities are either baby mamas or sleeping around with multiple men and promoting it. The men, even worse.
Now, this clip is guaranteed to make people mad because criticizing culture is harder than criticizing politicians, right? Politicians are strangers. Culture is personal. And what she's really asking is, what are we rewarded? Think about that. Every culture produces things: music, movies, influencers, role models, trends. The question isn't whether negative messages exist. The question is why they become the most profitable messages. That's the part people seem to skip, because it's easy to complain about what's being sold than to examine why so many people keep buying it. It's not a black conversation either. That's an American conversation. Look around. Half the country complains about what entertainment has become while simultaneously funding it. I want you to watch what happens. Because once culture enters the conversation, policy isn't far behind.
You know who white conservatives despise more than anybody else? It's not black people. It's not Hispanics. It's white liberals. Because the worst parts of the black community are enabled by white liberal policy. And the worst parts of immigration is the result of white liberal policy. The worst part of the trans community is enabled by white liberal activists. Everything that is wrong with our country is the result of liberal policies that are championed and signed off by white liberals. They destroy everything under the guise of compassion and equality, but in reality, they enable people to remain inferior and infantilize the black community with taxpayer dollars and incentivize illegal immigrants not only to stay, but to keep them comfortable. And they don't even know it. That's the scary part. They don't even realize that they are the problem when they think they are helping. You know who white...
Now, here's where things shift. Notice the argument being made. The claim isn't that people are powerless. The claim is that certain policies encourage people to stay powerless. Big difference. Now people can debate that all day, but here's the deeper observation. A lot of modern politics have become a competition over who gets to be seen as caring the most. Everybody wants credit for compassion. Very few people want accountability for results, and those aren't always the same thing. Good intentions sound amazing during a speech. Outcomes are what people actually live with. That's why these conversations never die, because eventually people stop asking what was promised and start asking, what actually happened. In this next clip, it just pushes that argument even further.
You're going to say that you're an ignorant black man.
A traitor. That's correct.
But you just live in reality.
Yes, ma'am.
And you know that your life matters. You don't need anyone to tell you that.
That's correct. You're right.
You know what's the biggest enemy for white people?
Hit me.
White liberals.
You hit it right on the head. You hit it right on the head. And I've been trying to tell people out here, the liberals are sabotaging our freedom, one in America, and the safety of us in America. No one remembers when the World Trade Tower fell down. No one remembers. And what we're doing, what the liberals are doing, is they're inviting people in, saying, please destroy this place. And they're turning their back. They're literally they're rooting for our enemies.
Tell me about your outfit.
I am a proponent of Marcus Garvey, Back to Africa. Africa for the Africans, those at home and those abroad. The red, black, and green is, rowdy around the red, the gold, all that stuff. And that's our flag. Okay, that's our flag.
Flag?
Red, black, and green.
Now, what's interesting here isn't the criticism, it's the frustration. You can hear it. This isn't somebody trying to sound clever. This is somebody looking around and saying, am I the only one seeing this? And that's becoming more common across the political spectrum. People feel disconnected from institutions, disconnected from media, disconnected from leadership. Everybody feels unheard, which is probably why videos like this spread so fast, because whether people agree or disagree, they recognize the emotion. And here's the lesson. A society becomes unstable when more people feel represented online than they do in real life. That's a dangerous place for any country to be. Which brings us to the final clip. And honestly, it's the one that ties everything together.
This is the foundation of America. And we got the circus going on. We got city council members making legislation for illegal immigrants. We had the pride flag being raised. But this is America. The only flag that should be raised in Philadelphia is the United States flag. We got men wearing dresses, all these different... What is going on? This is Philadelphia. Philly.
Why'd they start booing you when you started to share your opinion in there?
Because they know that the trans agenda has no place inside of the city council chambers. That chambers is to discuss bills and resolutions and priorities of the city of Philadelphia, not honoring men because they prioritize having sex with other men. That is not what our founding fathers built the city of Philadelphia for.
What do you have to say to the Democrats in that chamber?
Shame on you. Shame on you.
You know what's fascinating about this clip? Everybody watching sees something different. Some people see patriotism. Some people see frustration. Some people see political theater. But I think there's something deeper happening. This guy isn't really arguing about a flag. He's arguing about priority. That's why people are reacting to it, because every city, every state, every community eventually has to answer the same question. What comes first? Not what's popular, not what's trending, not what's the loudest. What comes first? And regardless of what somebody falls politically, that's definitely a question worth asking. Now, what stood out to me about all 6 of these clips is that they started in completely different places, right? Race, respect, music, policy, freedom, government, different conversations, same underlying tension. Some people are searching for something solid to build on. And when people can't agree on foundations, they end up arguing about everything built on top of them. So y'all let me know which clip hit y'all the hardest and why. I'll definitely read the comments. Y'all be safe. Please go check on somebody today. You can quite literally be saving their life. God bless you all, and I'm going to definitely see y'all in the next one. Peace.
So let me go ahead and go to the third thing that pissed me off. So on Monday, I came home. Did I play golf? I played golf on Monday, I think. So I came home, and my wife was watching this this docuseries on the History Channel, and it was called The Frontiers Men Who Built America. So they have a series of these documentaries, The Men Who Built America. They have The Food That Built America. This is a whole series. And so when I saw this, I saw that one of the executive producers was Leonardo DiCaprio. And so I sit down and I happened to walk in as they were talking about how Davy Crockett and Andrew Jackson were at odds, and how Davy Crockett lost his bid for Congress. And then they were talking about how that was a play on Davy Crockett, and then how Davy Crockett then moved to Texas, and he was walking into a war raging in Texas. Roll this. Let's get it.
As Crockett begins to settle in, he realizes Texas is on the verge of rebellion. After years of loose governance, Mexican President Santa Anna suddenly imposes new restrictions on settlers. Now, angry Texans...
Santa Anna, he imposes new restrictions on settlers. Now, if you're watching, you will go, I'm curious, what are those new restrictions? They never say. Press play.
...are calling for revolution.
Texas was on the verge of independence, that the Texians...
He He says, Texas were on the verge of independence. Okay, go ahead, roll it. Go ahead, roll it.
As they were called, were going to try to become independent from Mexico, and there would be possibilities, land and political opportunity.
In response, Santa Anna sends 500 troops to confiscate weapons and quell unrest. When Texans refuse to give in, he makes plans to retaliate.
Santa Anna is training an army in San Luis Potosí to march against Texas. Santa Anna did not think that this was a local insurgency. He was absolutely convinced the United States was involved. And so that's why the Mexican government was so determined to put down this revolt.
Crockett arrives in Texas at the same time as news of Santa Anna's counterattack.
When Crockett had gone to Texas was really just meant to be an extended hunting expedition and land scout, and he bumbles right into a war for independence.
He stumbles into a war for independence. And I'm just sitting here going, what are they trying to be independent about? Press play.
A number of things happened along the way. One was the appearance of Halley's Comet. And when Halley's Comet appeared in the sky in 1836, some people thought that it meant that David Crockett was coming to Texas to fight for independence.
Here we go again with that independence. And so the docuseries kept going on. And then they went to episode 4. And then I'm watching it. They talk about the Alamo and they talk about independence, 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 independence. Then they go to the Battle of San Jacinto. Then they talk about what happened there. Roll it.
Suffer just 11 casualties. The crushing defeat leads to Mexico's surrender. And Texas finally wins independence.
Here we go right there. Texas finally wins independence. What in the hell is Texas trying to be independent for? I still haven't answered. Roll it.
Back in Washington, D.C., Jackson welcomes the news. He's dreamed of Texas joining the U.S. for years, but the future of Texas is caught in the growing debate over slavery.
Congress wasn't willing to go along with annexation because Texas would enter the Union with slavery. And the
Oh my God! We finally hear the word slavery. Press play.
addition of Texas would tip the balance in the Senate in favor of the pro-slavery side. The result of this was that Texas remained in this limbo for almost a decade.
See, the problem is, I think I know what the problem is. See, the problem is, I am the reason them plantation owners couldn't stand reading Negroes. I think that's the real problem. The real problem is, I'm one of them Negroes who can read. And so I'm sitting here watching this docuseries, and I'm cussing the whole time because I have this. I have this book. And I've discussed this book on my show. I had an interview with the author. Actually, I got 2 copies of this book. And I'm watching, and I'm like, Leonardo DiCaprio, you really want your name on some lying shit, fake ass stuff? Dr. Gerald Horn joins me right now, professor at the University of Houston, and the title of his book is called The Counter-Revolution of 1836, Texas Slavery in Jim Crow and the Roots of U.S. Fascism. Book came about during COVID. It is a fascinating book, and I need y'all to understand something. Y'all see how thick this book is? I want y'all to see how thick this book is. I am a native Texan, born and raised in Houston, and every every Texan is required to take 7th grade history. And that book is thicker than this book right here. And everything in this book was never in one of those history books I read growing up. Gerald, it pissed me off watching this series to listen to them go, independence, independence, independence. And not one time, Gerald, did they ever say what the hell they were trying to get away from Mexico for.
Well, this is Trumpian history, to put it mildly. As you know more than most, when Texas seceded from Mexico and declared independence in 1836, a central reason was that Mexico, under a president of African descent, speaking of Vicente Guerrero, had moved to abolish slavery. Correct. And the slave owners in Texas, including those who led the revolt, and speaking of Sam Houston, Stephen F. Austin et al., rather than acquiesce to slavery, they decided to start an independent country, the Republic of Texas, which, interestingly enough, after it came into independence, began to challenge the United States for leading the African slave trade. The Lone Star flag of Texas could be found off the coast of Angola in Southwest Africa, off the coast of Brazil, the major market, off the coast of Cuba. Of course, if you look at your map, you'll see there's a straight shot from Galveston, Texas, the major slave trading port, to Cuba. And so that is what Mr. DiCaprio and his comrades neglected to note.
And Gerald, you lay out in the book, the reason they hated Mexico so much, because there was literally another country that was an abolitionist country bordering the fledgling United States of America.
Well, more than that, when Mexico comes into independence, it also allies with revolutionary Haiti. Abolitionist Haiti, as you know, came into independence as the first Black republic in 1804 and instantaneously began to put pressure on the slave trading powers, including the United States. And then when Texas seceded from Mexico, Haiti had reason to then put pressure on Texas in league with Mexico. And that too outraged the enslavers of Texas, because they thought this was mighty audacious for the Black rulers of Mexico and Haiti to be aligning. And then, of course, they were plotting, speaking of Mexico and Haiti, to invade Spanish-ruled Cuba and liberate the Africans there from enslavement. So they thought that the Mexicans and the Haitians had gotten too big for their britches, and that led to the secession from Mexico by Stephen F. Austin and Sam Houston and the so-called Texians.
I am not one who believes that you or I have to be in every document, in every sort of thing. But I just found it interesting, Gerald, watching this, and I've seen many of these, and I'm like, wow, all of these historians you talk to, and none of them are Black, and you're having all of these people sharing their thoughts about Texas independence, and nobody utters slavery.
Well, it's even worse because, as you know, the 2020 census showed that Texas has the largest Black population in the United States of America. And in fact, the Texas Black population has been in the vanguard of struggle, as you know more than most, for decades. And so it's a slap in the face of Roland Martin and other Black Houstonians to put this kind of tripe and trash on the airwaves.
And it also has to be, and you're used to it, being a historian, it also has to be offensive that the History Channel, which really should be called the His Story Channel, is presenting these docuseries and offering them up as and this is for the generation of people that don't read, offering this up as somehow, no, this is the stuff you don't know about. So people watch this and they walk away from this and go, I never knew those things. So now what they are doing, which you talk about being Trumpian, they can't stand folks like you because really they want, let's keep telling that white his story and keep advancing that. Douglas Blackman, Pulitzer Prize winning author, a white journalist out of Atlanta. Douglas is a great guy. He was responding to my post because I put it on LinkedIn, which led to us booking you. He said, I haven't seen this series, but Roland Martin's anger and exasperation is dead on about how pop history and pop culture continue to, quote, teach millions of people versions of our history that are simply false, factually wrong, fabricated, empirically disproven. The most nauseating part is how these fictions and perversions of truth are now so often presented with the tools and forms of documentary film and published works that, quote, look authoritative and are effectively endorsed by legitimate networks and publishers we once might have trusted.
Well, as you know, it's wholly consistent with the White House's attack on DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, which is shorthand for attack on affirmative action, which is shorthand further for purging Black people from the historical landscape. It's consistent with the attempts to smother the Smithsonian's National African American Museum in Washington, D.C. It's consistent with what's being debated at the state legislature in Austin as we speak, so-called SB 37, which if it comes into law, will lead to a routing of African American studies departments, Black studies departments, Africana studies departments. They're attempting to poison the minds of our youth to make them enlist willingly in the Trump crusade against Black people.
And again, what happens with these networks, again, for the people who are not going to read your 400 or 500 pages, it's like, oh, I can sit here and I can now just get all of this stuff in one nice place, prepackaged, looks great, tells us, sounds convincing. And what it is it is promoting a flat out lie. It is not being fully accurate. It is what this series is doing. It is portraying these white men, these frontiersmen, the ones who were rugged, who were fighting these savages, those Indians, who were just trying to get a land, and they were just trying to live the American dream. Never use the word stolen, never use the word genocide as you properly use when you describe, even in your introduction, that it was genocide that was being committed against Native Americans.
Indeed. I've studied United States history from the Atlantic to the Pacific. And I must say that when you look at the history of Texas, what leaps out at you is the fighting spirit and the militancy of the indigenous, particularly the Comanches. And what's remarkable is that approximately 200 years ago, they were ruling Texas. And today, it's difficult to find one person in Texas of Comanche descent. You would think that some might pose the question, what happened to the Comanches? What happened to the Apaches? What happened to these Native Americans who were ruling the plains not so long ago and now cannot be found?
When I look at this here, when I look at, and let me pull this up because I'm going to go questions my panel, so panel, y'all get ready. I am on imdb.com right now, and it lists the stars of the documentary. It lists all of the people involved, the writers, and I'm just sorry. I believe in naming and claiming it. John Ealer is a director. Johnny St. Hours is a director. The writers, Brian Burstein, Zachary Herman, Jeremiah Murphy, Jordan Rosenblum, Peter Sherman, Stephen David, Tim W. Kelly, Yoshi Stone, Adam Jones Siegler for dialogue. They're listed as the writers, and you see the cast here. My wife made this observation. She says, my God, I'm watching this thing and I don't see nobody Black in this docuseries at all. Oh, that was, there's one brother who played Pompey. But this is what I think is important also, Gerald. These are the producers of this trash, of this factually incorrect and wrong Stuck, Petra Hobo, Thaddeus Busca, Chelsea Coates, Mary Donahue, Sam Epstein, Carter Figueroa, Ronald Freed, Tim W. Kelly, Nick Gutler, Brian Meir, Paul Kleinman, Brian Burstein, Liz DeFord, Nikki Macron, Michael Hampton, Jonathan Soule, Yoshi Stone, Philip Watson, Christian Burns, Stephen David, Jennifer Davidson, Leonardo DiCaprio, Russell McCarroll. Those are executive producers. Now, again, some of these folks participated in some of this series from, you see, 2017, 2018. These are cinematographers. These are editors. This is casting. This is production designer, art director, costume designer, makeup, production manager, everything that goes along with it. The reason all of this is important, Gerald, is because these are the people who are responsible for producing the docuseries, and the History Channel has an obligation that before you air some crap like this, that it needs to be factually correct. And we see documentaries on PBS where they will say, oh, no, these things need to be corrected before we put this on the air. The problem that I have is when you air this kind of crap, folk run with it and go, I saw it on the History Channel. It must be true.
Huh. Well, maybe that's part of the problem, because obviously the History Channel is pumping out propaganda. And we should also ask ourselves, who are the major stockholders in the History Channel? Who are the puppeteers, for example? You cited Mr. DiCaprio, but of course, he is getting a paycheck from someone higher on the food chain. And I think that it's highly appropriate for you to call these people out, just like I think it's even more appropriate for your audience to begin to ask these searching questions as to how this sort of propaganda, which ultimately is an expression of anti-Blackness, how it manages to worm its way into our living room.
Well, the people who own it is A&E. Who owns A&E, go back to my iPad, is the Hearst Corporation. And A&E Global Media also is a joint venture of Hearst and the Walt Disney Company. So A&E falls under the A&E Global Media, falls under the ownership is Hearst and the Walt Disney Company. And so the History Channel is one of the networks that fall underneath that. So the question that we should be asking specifically, I say, definitely are to the producers and the writers and the researchers, because they're doing the docuseries. Then it is airing on the History Channel. So who are the execs in charge of that particular show? And now you go to the owners of the History Channel, which is A&E Global, and that is the Hearst Corporation and the Walt Disney Company. Questions from the panel. I'll start with Michael first.
Hey, Gerald, good to see you again.
Right on.
All right. When we deal with this history, and I teach about Texas independence also, when we talk about the Texas Rangers starting about 1835, 1836, part of their duty was also capturing runaway slaves as well. Okay. Can you talk some about that history also? And we know, I'm glad you mentioned Vicente Guerrero, the second president of Mexico, who was Afro-Latino, former slave, because he abolished slavery in Mexico in 1829.
Well, it's interesting. The Texas Rangers, in many ways, were state-sponsored death squads. Not only were they capturing
domestic terrorists.
Exactly. They were hell on the indigenous population.
Yes.
And keep in mind as well that one of the reasons that the United States itself waged war against Mexico a few years later in 1846, walking away with California, which now bills itself as the fourth largest economy on planet Earth, is because Mexico refused to return runaway Africans who had crossed the border into Mexico, leading to major capital loss on the part of Texas enslavers. It's oftentimes discussed in this country about following the North Star to freedom, which is highly appropriate. That is to say, the Africans escaping north to Canada, but thousands of Africans were escaping south into Mexico.
Correct.
Leads to the war against Mexico, which leads to the denuding of a good deal of Mexican territory.
Yeah.
Let's go to Matt Manning, because he's out of Corpus Christi. Matt?
So, Dr. Horn, I'm a lifelong Texan. I took that Texas history class a lot more recently than Roland because I'm not as long in the tooth. But
guess what? Guess what? It's the same damn book. That shit ain't changed. Your ass had the same thick ass book.
I'm sure Miss Swafford got that book from you when she taught it to me much more recently than you learned it. And I was shaking my head because Michael literally stole the question I was going to ask. But to just add some contour, I was going to ask Dr. Horn if you'd shed some light on how much what you've seen in terms of, your historical review, how much of that, reticence to return the capital loss was discussed at the time, because obviously I never learned that in Texas history, but clearly that was one of the major impetus behind, their seeking to break away. So how much of that was actually being discussed in documents at the time, if you know?
Well, the newspapers were full of these sorts of stories. Keep in mind as well that these so-called Texians were not above crossing the border into Mexico and snatching dark-skinned people who they thought could pass for an enslaved African, driving them kicking and screaming across the border to work as an enslaved person. This person might not have been a runaway. It might have been an Afro-Mexican, for example. So the Texians raised hell in Mexico, which is one of the reasons, if you talk to Mexicans today, at least those that are intelligent, they have a very negative evaluation of Texas generally in the United States more broadly.
Wanda.
So I just want to talk a little bit actually about the production of the docuseries. As someone who has worked in the entertainment industry for years, I think the unfortunate part about this is that when you distribute a docuseries like this and you have certain names attached, there is a level of trust when it comes to distributing it. So having the name Leonardo DiCaprio attached to something like this, people may not unfortunately watch it ahead of time to fact check it. And that's just as you said, Roland, with Black-led charter schools earlier in the program, there needs to be more of a push for Black-led produced history productions. So on that note, because we're such a media-driven society, I'm just wondering if you have any docuseries that you know of that are Black produced and researched that have been distributed that you would recommend for people to watch.
Well, it just escaped me, but there is a joint Canadian broadcasting, South African broadcasting series on slavery in the United States. If you put those terms into a search engine, will probably emerge. And it presents a view of the United States, and indeed a view of 1776, that is altogether different from the kind of poppycock and balderdash and propaganda we're being fed and will be fed in bountiful amounts coming in the run-up to 2026, the 250th anniversary of the birthday of the United States of America. I should also mention that the Hearst Corporation, which is at the top of the food chain in terms of this docuseries, also controls the Houston Chronicle, the major daily newspaper in this sizable city.
In fact, the Houston Chronicle is actually the largest newspaper in the Southwest United States.
Exactly. And so what that says to me is that they have less of an excuse to put out falsehoods because they're cited, or at least they have an organ. They have an arm of the corporation right there in the Lone Star State, right there in the state of Texas, in the city of Houston. I read the Houston Chronicle on a regular basis. And I know some of these people who are administering that newspaper, so they really have no excuse for making this sort of production.
Is this what you're referring to, Gerald? I'm on the CBC's Canadian broadcast. This series called Enslaved?
That's one, and there's another one too, starring the woman, if you can put this into the search.
I will.
The Williams sister's mother in that Will Smith vehicle.
Anjanou Ellis.
Exactly. She's in this CBC South African broadcasting production. I show it to my class.
You mean, that actually aired on, you mean the Book of Negroes?
There it is.
Yeah, that actually aired on BET. BET actually aired that. It's called the Book of Negroes.
Yes.
I
recommend it highly. It's an eye opener, and once again, it's not financed by U.S. entities. It's financed by the Canadians and the South Africans.
Yeah, that actually, what you're talking about, aired in 2014. Pull the audio up, please. This is the trailer that Gerald is talking about.
You gotta let go of that Africa thing. This your home now. We's all you got.
Coming to CBC.
We are not in the promised land. Not yet.
I am Aminata Giallo. I seem to have trouble dying. By all accounts, I should not have lived this long.
I have been across the big river, and now I am back.
The Book of Negroes begins Wednesday, January 7th on CBC.
That's what that is. And so I really, Gerald, I was just so irked when I saw that and knowing the true history and knowing that people will watch this and they will think that these people, it would just land, and those horrible Mexicans wouldn't just leave those Western settlers alone, and Davy Crockett and Sam Houston, they all were coming there because they were looking for a better life, leaving the places. No, they were pissed off that Mexico said, we're not going to allow you to continue having slavery in the Texas territory. That's what pissed them off. And they said, nope, they about to jack up the economy. That's the only economy that we have. And we're going to fight. And that's what the Alamo was about. That's what all that crap was about.
And that's what Sandra Bland was about. Recall that a few years ago in Prairie View, Texas, this Black woman wound up dead as a result of an unfortunate encounter with the authorities in that suburb, if you like, of Houston, Texas. George Floyd, not coincidentally, also has roots in the Lone Star State as well.
Yeah, with the same high school I did, Jack Yates High School.
Exactly. And so you cannot separate the kind of misinformation and disinformation that's pumped out through the airwaves that presents a profound representation of anti-Blackness for the kinds of unfortunate slayings and murders that take place all too routinely, inflicted against Black people with roots in the Lone Star State.
And this is one of the reasons why. And again, what happens when you know your history, when you know those things, and people sort of get mad at you. I did this, and a lot of people, Gerald, were not happy with me, but ain't like I gave a damn. When Rick Perry was the governor of Texas, he felt that when Texas A&M joined the Southeastern Conference, that there needed to be something, some trophy or something that was awarded to whoever won the annual game between Texas A&M and the University of South Carolina. So then they settled upon something called the Bonham Trophy. And so this says, few have ever heard of this. And so this is the trophy right here. And you see the Bonham Trophy. Well, a couple of years ago, I was watching the game, and it was on ESPN. They were talking about, hey, where's this trophy? Who had it? Who has it? Where can we find it? Didn't quite understand it. And so, again, when you don't know history, the Bonham Trophy is named and modeled after Alamo battle hero James Bonham. He was from South Carolina, traveled to Texas to fight with the Texians at the Alamo. And so they wanted to talk about it. And really, it got lost. Folks didn't know where in the hell the trophy was and all of that. And I actually did a video early on this, and I said to any Texas A&M player and South Carolina player, especially if you Black, if your ass holds this trophy up, you are holding up a Confederate monument, because anybody who was fighting at the Alamo against Santa Anna's troops, those people were fighting to continue slavery in Texas.
Well, as you know more than most, in Houston in particular, there's still a number of streets named after Confederate heroes. It was not so long ago that the street that's now called Emancipation Avenue near the University of Houston was named after a blood-stained Confederate. And of course, he has not been alone in that ill-fated regard. And so we have a lot of work to do, and I congratulate you for bringing this trashy docuseries to a wider attention of our audience.
We, of course, in a couple of weeks are going to have Juneteenth. And before I let you go, I really just want you, and I shared this with, I was talking to Governor Westmore, and we were talking about Juneteenth, the celebration there. And I said to him, Governor, please do me a favor. I need you and others to make perfectly clear that Juneteenth was not a day of picnics. It was not a day of celebration. It wasn't a day of barbecues and cookouts. That for Black people in Texas, where Juneteenth was founded, it was about freedom. It was the pursuit of economic freedom. It was pursuit of the right to vote, civil rights. I said, what we cannot do is allow that Juneteenth is a national holiday, and it is the only day that actually recognizes and tied to slavery. We cannot allow this to be bastardized and prostituted and turned into a day of partying and line dancing. There has to be a freedom component that tied with it.
Well, more than that, we also need accuracy with regard to Juneteenth. That is to say, the traditional story of the men in blue showing up in Galveston and alerting these enslaved Africans to the reality that supposedly you're free, and that's a misrepresentation. First of all, the Emancipation Proclamation, January 1st, 1863, issued by the Lincoln government, did not have any standing in Confederate Texas. Actually, what happens is that the men in blue of the U.S. Army are showing up in Galveston because the enslavers plan to extend slavery back into Mexico. Because recall, Cinco de Mayo, marked on May 5th every year, particularly by our Mexican-American brothers and sisters, the French had taken over Mexico and they were supporting the Confederates. And so the Confederates were going to make a jailbreak into Mexico, dragging, kicking, and screaming enslaved Africans alongside with them so that they could extend the life and legacy of slavery. But what happens with the men in blue showing up in Galveston, they're recruiting these Black men as the Confederacy was collapsing, and they managed to join the men in blue, and then they, along with progressive and patriotic Mexicans, helped to strangle the French-based puppet regime. And interestingly enough, the French puppet leader, Maximilian, he was assassinated, he was killed, he was subjected to the death penalty on June 19th, 1867, and that is a further reason to mark Juneteenth, because June 19th, 1867, in many ways has more resonance and more profundity than June 19th, 1865, which is part of the traditional story.
Last thing I want to do is this here, because as you were talking, you mentioned that documentary, the 6-part series out of Canada. I actually had the director of this movie. It came out during COVID, did not get much attention. It was about a group of Black soldiers in Houston, Texas during Jim Crow who were sick and tired of sick and tired. It's called the 24th. A lot of people had no idea about this. And it was, folks, if y'all pull it up on YouTube, the interview that we did with the director, it was fascinating conversation about the making of this movie. And so, folks, if you're not aware of this, we're just going to play this trailer, then we're going to close this out.
Men of the 24th Infantry. This is Texas. And we have a great opportunity here. Legacy, if proven worthy, will carry us all the way to the shores of France. Things are a little different down here in the South. I will expect you men to obey the racial code.
Yes, sir.
Get back with the others. Just go ahead and drive this machine.
Officer Cross. This is a white man's world. Every man here has got a lit fuse. Jim Crow's the law. Respect it. What we gonna do?
The police brutalize us, sir. All we want is to be treated as soldiers.
As military police, you are to ensure order of the men of the 24th Infantry only.
Drop the knife.
Back up!
I was robbed of my honor. You get out of here before they take yours too.
The General can get the 24th in the fight.
He's never going to do that.
What do we do, sir?
William, I've done all I can do here.
We have a problem. We're gonna take our country back.
Law run this town.
There's a militia on the way.
Are they?
Which way did they go?
pushing people down. Sooner or later, they rise up.
Can you identify any of the leaders of the mutiny?
When I aimed the gun, I saw a man. He didn't see one back.
That was a black director, black writers, and again, our stories are important. Folks, it's always great to have Gerald. I can say this, I ain't got a problem saying it. I know, Michael, I know you had him on the show, but I think I probably have sold more Gerald Horn books than anybody else. Every time Gerald got a book, he's on the show. He's a prolific writer, an amazing historian, and so I ain't got no problem helping to put coins in Gerald's pockets. Y'all, I'm telling y'all, get this book. Because what Gerald does in here, because it's called The Counter-Revolution of 1836, Texas Slavery and Jim Crow and the Roots of U.S. Fascism, and he connects, he's called The Counter-Revolution 1836, he's connecting the American Revolution and the Texas Revolution and the Civil War and how all of these things are combined. And if you also, again, want to understand present day. See, this is why every year when Governor Greg Abbott and Lieutenant Governor Dan
The metallic sound of a shotgun shell racking into a chamber cut through the Louisiana night. Then another, and another. 4 black men stood in full view of the police, deliberately loading their weapons as teenage protesters faced down fire hoses aimed at their faces. The officers froze. They'd used these tactics in Birmingham, Montgomery, Selma. Dogs, hoses, batons. It always worked. But nobody had ever pointed guns back at them before. The police ordered the fire truck to withdraw, July 8th, 1965. Bogalusa, Louisiana. A white mob surrounded peaceful civil rights marchers outside City Hall, hurling rocks, closing in for the attack that would send them running like they always did. Then 3 shots cracked across the crowd. A white man dropped, hit in the chest. The mob scattered in seconds, and for the first time in the history of the American civil rights movement, a black man had shot a white man in self-defense during a demonstration and lived to tell about it. His name was Henry Austin. He was 21 years old, and he was a deacon for defense and justice. This is the story that history tried to forget. The story of Black World War II and Korean War veterans who came home from fighting for freedom abroad and decided to fight for it at home. Not with sit-ins, not with marches, not by turning the other cheek, with loaded M1 rifles, military discipline, and a simple promise. If you come to kill us, we will kill you first. When the Ku Klux Klan came riding through black neighborhoods at midnight, these men were waiting in the darkness. When white mobs attacked civil rights workers, these men formed armed perimeters. When Martin Luther King Jr. preached non-violence, these men said, "God bless you, but we'll be over here with the shotguns." And in 4 short years, they did something no one thought possible. They made the Klan afraid. The northern Louisiana mill town of Jonesboro seemed like an unlikely birthplace for armed resistance. Population 5,000, half black, half white, entirely segregated. The paper mill paid the wages. Jim Crow wrote the rules, and by 1964, those rules were being challenged by the Congress of Racial Equality, known as CORE. CORE had established a freedom house in Jonesboro that spring, bringing in young activists, many of them white, to help register black voters. Their presence enraged white Jonesboro. To the local Klan, these outside agitators represented everything they feared about the changing South. So in July 1964, the Klan decided to make an example of them. 5 black churches burned. The Masonic Hall burned. A Baptist center burned. All in the space of a few weeks. The Freedom House itself came under repeated attack. Shots fired through windows at night, rocks through windshields during the day. The pattern was familiar throughout the South. Terror without consequence. Violence without arrest. But Jonesboro had something most rural Southern towns didn't have. It had a significant population of black men who'd fought in World War II and Korea. Men who knew how to handle weapons. Men who'd faced enemy fire on 2 continents. Men who'd been promised that their service to their country would mean something when they came home. They'd been lied to. Ernest Thomas had been born in Jonesboro on November 20th, 1935. He'd grown up fighting white boys for access to swimming holes, learning early that rights went to those who fought for them, not to those who asked politely. After military service, he'd returned home believing that political change had to be secured by force, not moral appeal. The Klan's July rampage proved him right. Frederick Douglass Kirkpatrick had been named after the great abolitionist. Born in 1933 in Haynesville, Louisiana, he'd excelled at Grambling, earning a degree in biology while playing football. His imposing physical presence made him hard to ignore. His education made him hard to dismiss, and his position as gym teacher at the segregated black high school gave him access to the community's young men. Before the convoy, 2 separate groups had already formed to protect Corps workers. Thomas led one group of sentries who guarded the Freedom House at night. Kirkpatrick organized another that monitored police arrests and worked to keep the community safe. Both groups were informal, unorganized, reactive. The July Klan convoy changed everything. Thomas and Kirkpatrick met with about 20 other men in November 1964. Most were veterans. All were tired. Tired of watching their churches burn. Tired of watching their children terrorized. Tired of being told to wait, to be patient, to let the system work. The system was working, just not for them. They called themselves the Deacons for Defense and Justice. The name was strategic. Deacon implied respectability, religious values, community service. It made them sound like a church group, which is exactly what they wanted white folks to think. What they actually were was a disciplined armed self-defense organization with clear rules. Never fire first. Always fire back. Protect civil rights workers, their families, and the black community. Use military tactics, military discipline, military precision. The Deacons established membership criteria that would have made the Army proud. Men only, over 21, American citizens, married men with military service preferred, registered voters, no hotheads. Anyone with a reputation for starting trouble was rejected. This wasn't about revenge. It was about protection. They organized CB radio networks and walkie-talkies for communication. They ran nighttime patrols through black neighborhoods in cars. They stationed armed guards outside the Freedom House, and they made sure everyone, black and white, knew they were there. In early 1965, black students in Jonesboro picketed the local high school, demanding integration. Hostile police arrived with fire trucks, preparing to turn hoses on the teenagers. It was Bull Connor's playbook, proven effective in Birmingham. Then a car pulled up carrying 4 deacons. In full view of the police, these men calmly loaded their shotguns. The metallic sound of shells racking into chambers carried across the street. The police looked at the shotguns. They looked at the men holding them, men who clearly knew how to use them, and they ordered the fire truck to withdraw. It was the first time in the 20th century that an armed black organization had successfully used weapons to defend a lawful protest against an attack by law enforcement. The students continued their protest, unmolested. Word spread about the men with guns, about the Klan backing down, about a new kind of resistance. Then Corps workers in Jonesboro shared something remarkable. After the successful library integration, the Ku Klux Klan burned crosses in response, as they always did. But the deacons wrote leaflets threatening to kill anyone who burned another cross. They had black housekeepers distribute these leaflets directly into white homes. The cross burnings stopped. In February 1965, Kirkpatrick and Thomas received an urgent message from Bogalusa, Louisiana, 300 miles to the southeast. Black activists there were under siege. They needed help. February 21st, 1965. The day Malcolm X was shot in New York Kirkpatrick, Thomas, and a Corps field secretary traveled to Bogalusa to organize the 2nd Deacons chapter. If Jonesboro had been difficult, Bogalusa was a nightmare. The city of 22,000 was a company town, dominated by Crown Zellerbach, a massive paper mill operation. Roughly 40% of residents worked for the company. 70% of the city's taxes came from Crown Zellerbach employees, and approximately 100 of those employees were Ku Klux Klan members. The mill embodied segregation. Black workers couldn't eat with whites, couldn't sit in the same break rooms, couldn't use the same restrooms, couldn't hold supervisory positions no matter how qualified. They did the hardest, dirtiest, most dangerous work for the lowest wages. When they complained, they got fired. When they organized, they got killed. In early 1965, Washington Parish hired its first black deputy sheriffs. Within weeks, both were targeted. One was Ambas, inated. The other barely survived an attack in the small town of Varnado, just north of Bogalusa. The killers were never apprehended. The message was clear. Black people in positions of authority would be removed by any means necessary. Into this environment stepped 3 men who would lead the Bogalusa Deacons: Robert Hicks, A.Z. Young, and Charles Sims. All worked at Crown Zellerbach. All had reached their breaking point. Charles Sims became the face of the Bogalusa Deacons. A World War II veteran, he was described by journalists as grizzled, intimidating, with beady eyes and a gap where 2 teeth should be. Jet magazine called him the man most feared by whites in Louisiana. When reporters asked if he'd ever been arrested for battery, Sims estimated about 20 times. When they asked, battery with what? He just held up his fists. But Sims's public persona as a tough guy masked something more important: tactical discipline. He understood that protection required deterrence, and deterrence required fear. If white segregationists believed the Deacons were more dangerous than they actually were, so much the better. The goal wasn't to fight. It was to make sure fighting never became necessary. Robert Hicks had publicly demanded that black workers at the mill receive equal promotion opportunities. This made him a target. In early 1965, a coffin appeared in his yard with his name painted on the side. A burning cross accompanied it. The Klan's traditional calling card: stop your agitation or die. Hicks didn't stop. The Deacons made sure he didn't have to. The Bogalusa chapter grew rapidly. Deacons established 24-hour armed guard rotations around Hicks's home and the homes of other activists. They patrolled black neighborhoods in vehicles equipped with CB radios. They created quick response teams that could be anywhere in the city within minutes. And they made one thing absolutely clear: if you attacked a black person in Bogalusa, you would be shot. In spring 1965, a young deacon named Henry Austin, a 21-year-old insurance collector, finished his rounds in Washington Parish as the sun set. Heading back toward Bogalusa down a dirt road, he noticed headlights behind him. They came closer, too close. Austin realized he was being pursued by Klansmen. The cars chased him to a bridge. They pulled alongside, trying to force him off the road. Austin had 2 choices: die or fight. He chose to fight. Opening fire with his pistol through his own car window, he hit the lead vehicle. It swerved, missed the bridge, and ran into the water. Austin escaped. The next day, shaken but alive, he went to see Charles Sims and formally joined the Deacons. Within months, Austin would do something unprecedented in the civil rights movement. The Congress of Racial Equality continued its work in Bogalusa throughout the spring and summer of 1965, testing the new Civil Rights Act by attempting to integrate public facilities. The Klan response was immediate and violent. White mobs threw rocks at peaceful marchers. Police stood by and watched. Sometimes they joined in. On July 8, 1965, hundreds of white opponents gathered outside Bogalusa City Hall to confront civil rights marchers. The crowd grew hostile, surrounding the protesters, throwing objects. Violence seemed inevitable. Henry Austin, now a deacon, was there providing security. A white man named Alton Crow confronted the crowd of black demonstrators, advancing aggressively. Austin drew his pistol and fired 3 times, hitting Crow in the chest. The mob dispersed instantly. Crow survived. So did Austin. And that night, Charles Sims reportedly said to FBI informants, "A brand new Negro was born." It was the first time during the civil rights movement that a black man had shot a white man in self-defense during a demonstration and survived to tell about it. The psychological impact rippled through both communities. For black residents of Bogalusa, it proved that armed self-defense worked. For white segregationists, it proved the rules had changed. Corps leader James Farmer needed to come to Bogalusa to speak at the funeral of one of the assassinated black deputies. Police warned him the Klan was planning to shoot him. Farmer, one of the principal architects of non-violent civil rights protest, called the deacons. 4 armed deacons met Farmer at the New Orleans airport. They drove him 65 miles to Bogalusa in a convoy, weapons visible, radios coordinating. They provided security at the funeral, where approximately 50 deacons attended. No one was attacked. Farmer survived, and afterward, he told the press something that shocked civil rights leaders across the country. "CORE is non-violent, but we have no right to tell black people in Bogalusa or anywhere else that they do not have the right to defend their homes." Even Martin Luther King Jr.'s Southern Christian Leadership Conference employed armed guards, though they rarely discussed it publicly. King himself, during the early days of the Montgomery bus boycott, had kept guns in his home. The difference was visibility. The deacons didn't hide their weapons. They displayed them openly, deliberately, strategically. On a July night in 1965, a cavalcade of 25 Klan cars drove through a black neighborhood in Bogalusa, hurling insults, randomly firing into houses. The Klan had done this hundreds of times before, in dozens of towns, always with the same result: terror without resistance. This time, the neighborhood fired back. Dozens of rifles and pistols opened up on the convoy. Klansmen, shocked to be under attack, sped away in panic. Some vehicles running into ditches in their haste to escape. They never came back. One deacon leader remembered, "They finally found out that we really are men, and that we would do what we said, and we meant what we said." The escalating violence forced the federal government's hand. The Department of Justice, which had been reluctant to challenge local police departments that collaborated with the Klan, finally acted. In July 1965, using Reconstruction-era laws, federal authorities ordered local police to protect civil rights workers. FBI agents flooded the region. Federal prosecutors began building cases against Klan members. By the end of 1965, the Louisiana Klan had been devastated. Membership collapsed. Cross burnings nearly ceased. Night riding stopped. Federal surveillance and prosecution, combined with armed black resistance, had accomplished what decades of non-violent protest alone could not. The deacons expanded rapidly. On March 8, 1965, they formally incorporated as a Louisiana non-profit organization with an explicit mission: the defense of civil rights, property rights, and personal rights. By mid-1965, chapters existed across Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and even in Chicago. At their peak, the Deacons had approximately 21 chapters and 46 affiliates. They provided security for major civil rights events. In 1966, when James Meredith, the first black student at the University of Mississippi, was shot during his March Against Fear, the Deacons joined the continuation march from Memphis to Jackson, providing armed escorts. At night campsites, Deacons stood guard. Martin Luther King Jr., despite his philosophical opposition to armed resistance, accepted their protection during parts of the march. He understood that in rural Mississippi, nonviolence alone could get you killed. Charles Sims articulated the Deacons' philosophy in an August 1965 interview. "The reason why we had to organize the Deacons in the city of Bogalusa was the black people and civil rights workers didn't have no adequate police protection. When the white power structure found out that they had men, black men that had made up their minds to stand up for their people and to die if necessary for their people, they started acting a little different." Asked about the Second Amendment, Sims was direct. "I think a person should have the right to carry a weapon in self-defense. We found out in Bogalusa that the Louisiana state law that says a man can carry a weapon in his car as long as it's not concealed meant for the white man. It didn't mean for the colored. The deacons operated under strict rules of engagement. They pledged their lives for the defense of justice and their community, but only in defensive situations. Charles Sims repeatedly emphasized this to members and media. "We will never go on the offense. But if the Klan or anybody else comes in here to hit us, I guarantee they will get hit back." This discipline separated them from vigilantes. They weren't seeking revenge or starting fights. They were establishing boundaries and enforcing them. The fact that those boundaries were backed by men with combat experience and loaded weapons made them real in a way that court orders and federal laws were not. The Federal Bureau of Investigation took notice. By mid-1965, the FBI had opened an investigation into the Deacons, classifying them as a potential black extremist organization. Bureau Director J. Edgar Hoover ordered intensive surveillance, fearing the group would spark a race war. FBI agents infiltrated chapters, recruited informants, tracked weapons purchases, and monitored communications. They documented everything: membership lists, training procedures, weapon types, patrol routes. The investigation files would eventually total over 600 pages. But the FBI found something unexpected. The Deacons' presence actually reduced violence. Areas with active Deacons chapters saw fewer Klan attacks, fewer shootings, fewer nighttime raids. Armed deterrence worked. The Deacons' effectiveness in Bogalusa had additional consequences. Robert Hicks, the activist whose home had been threatened with the coffin, turned to the court system in late 1965 to challenge workplace discrimination at Crown Zellerbach. His lawsuit, backed by federal civil rights enforcement and protected by the Deacons, opened previously closed job opportunities and promotions for black workers at the mill. The combination of federal legal action, armed self-defense, and organized protest proved more effective than any single approach alone. Black voter registration in the region increased dramatically. By the late 1960s, black residents were serving in law enforcement positions throughout rural Louisiana, something unthinkable just years earlier. But success brought complications. The Black Power movement, emerging in 1966 with Stokely Carmichael's famous call in Mississippi, attracted national attention. The Black Panther Party, founded that same year in Oakland, California, adopted some of the Deacons' tactics but added revolutionary rhetoric that the Deacons had always avoided. Charles Sims rejected Black Power as a concept. "I don't want to live under Black Power," he said. "I don't want to live under white power. I want equal power, and that's what I push." He dismissed Carmichael as a show-off. "I don't see nothing they were doing to even be talking about no black power," Sims said. "The black power, we had it. In them 30 rounds of ammunition on a man's shoulder, we had the black power." The Deacons were apolitical except for civil rights and self-defense. They rejected attempts by black nationalists and white communists to recruit them to broader ideological causes. They were working men, veterans, family men. They weren't revolutionaries. They just wanted to protect their community and enforce their constitutional rights. As federal civil rights enforcement improved and the Voting Rights Act of 1965 began changing the political landscape, the acute need for armed self-defense diminished. The Deacons had forced the federal government to intervene. Once that intervention came, their role became less critical. By 1968, Deacons' activity had declined significantly. The Black Panther Party, with its more militant rhetoric and urban focus, captured media attention and overshadowed the rural, working-class, defensive approach of the Deacons. The FBI, concerned about urban riots and revolutionary movements, shifted its surveillance away from the Deacons toward these newer organizations. The Deacons never completely disbanded, but they faded from public view. Their story was largely forgotten, overshadowed by the more visible narrative of non-violent resistance led by Martin Luther King Jr. History books mentioned them briefly, if at all. The civil rights movement, as taught in schools, emphasized peaceful protests and moral suasion, not armed veterans establishing defensive perimeters. Frederick Douglass Kirkpatrick moved to New York, became a minister, and dedicated himself to teaching black history through music. He recorded several albums with Smithsonian Folkways, including songs honoring civil rights leaders and the Deacons themselves. He died in 1986. Charles Sims remained in Bogalusa, continuing to advocate for equal rights through legal means. Robert Hicks stayed active in the community until his death in 2010. His home was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 2015, recognized as the birthplace of the Bogalusa Deacons chapter. Plans for a civil rights museum at the site continue. Ernest Thomas's later life remains less documented, but his role as co-founder ensured his place in the hidden history of armed resistance during the civil rights movement. In 2003, Showtime produced a television movie, Deacons for Defense, directed by Bill Duke and starring Forrest Whitaker and Ossie Davis. It brought the story to a new generation, though like all dramatizations, it simplified complex events. The Deacons' legacy raises uncomfortable questions about the civil rights movement's dominant narrative. For decades, the movement has been presented as a story of non-violent moral triumph over violent oppression. Martin Luther King Jr.'s philosophy of redemptive suffering through non-violence is taught as the strategy that won. But the Deacons tell a different story. They suggest that non-violent protest succeeded in part because it was backed by the implicit threat of armed resistance. They demonstrate that federal intervention often came not from moral appeals alone, but from the specter of armed conflict that the government wanted to prevent. They prove that working-class black veterans, not just college-educated leaders, played crucial roles in securing civil rights. Most significantly, they show that black people throughout the South had always defended themselves when possible, had always fought back when necessary. The Deacons didn't invent armed resistance. They organized it, publicized it, and made it a visible part of the civil rights struggle. Lance Hill, a historian who wrote the definitive book on the Deacons, noted something remarkable. The Deacons' local campaigns frequently resulted in substantial victories that self-sustaining organizations, producing real power that survived after national civil rights groups departed. In Jonesboro, the Deacons compelled Louisiana Governor John McKeithen to intervene in the city's civil rights crisis, the first time a Deep South governor capitulated to the civil rights movement. In Bogalusa, they forced federal intervention that broke the Klan's power. These weren't symbolic victories. They were concrete changes in power relations, enforced not by moral suasion, but by armed men who'd decided they would no longer be victims. The standard narrative of the civil rights movement emphasizes that violence was the tool of oppressors, that meeting violence with violence was morally wrong and tactically foolish. The Deacons complicate that narrative. They met violence with the credible threat of violence. And it worked. This doesn't diminish the importance of non-violent protest. Sit-ins, freedom rides, marches. These tactics mobilized public opinion, attracted media coverage, and created moral pressure on political leaders. But in rural Louisiana and Mississippi, where federal marshals were absent and local police were Klansmen, non-violent protesters needed protection. The Deacons provided it. One Deacon member told an interviewer, "If the Deacons had been organized in 1964, the 3 civil rights workers that was assassinated in Philadelphia, Mississippi, might have been living today because we'd have been around to protect them." He was referring to James Chaney, Andrew Goodman, and Michael Schwerner, murdered by Klansmen and buried in an earthen dam, their deaths shocking the nation. Would armed guards have saved them? Impossible to know, but the fact remains. In areas where Deacons operated, civil rights workers survived. In areas without that protection, some didn't. The Deacons represented something that made civil rights organizations nervous and historians uncomfortable. The American tradition of armed self-defense applied to black people. The Second Amendment, that constitutional right white Americans had always claimed, exercised by black veterans who'd earned it in combat. When Charles Sims said, "Let's back up the Constitution of the United States and say we can bear arms," he was claiming a right that had been systematically denied to black Americans since slavery. Armed black people threatened the entire structure of white supremacy, which depended on the threat of violence going only one direction. The Deacons reversed that equation. They made violence bidirectional. They made the Klan afraid. And that fear, combined with federal action and non-violent protest, helped break Jim Crow's back in Louisiana. On July 8, 1965, when Henry Austin fired those 3 shots into Alton Crow's chest, he didn't just save himself and the protesters around him. He fired a shot heard across the South. The message, "Black people will defend themselves. The cost of racial terrorism has gone up. Calculate accordingly." The Klan calculated. Cross burnings decreased. Night riding stopped. Attacks on civil rights workers declined. Not because segregationists had a change of heart, but because they'd done the math. Some targets shot back now, and those who shot back were combat veterans who didn't miss. The Deacon's story challenges comfortable narratives about how social change happens. It suggests that moral arguments alone don't transform power structures, that sometimes violence, or the credible threat of it, is necessary to secure basic rights, that working-class black people with guns were as important as middle-class black people with law degrees. This is why the Deacons were largely written out of civil rights history. They didn't fit the story civil rights leaders wanted to tell, or that white America wanted to hear. King's dream was palatable to white liberals. Armed black veterans shooting at white men was not. But the Deacons weren't trying to be palatable. They were trying to survive. They were trying to protect their families, their neighbors, their communities. They were using skills learned in the service of their country to defend rights supposedly guaranteed by that country's constitution. Frederick Douglass Kirkpatrick, Charles Sims, Ernest Thomas, Robert Hicks, Henry Austin, and the hundreds of men who joined them weren't heroes in the traditional civil rights narrative. They were heroes in a different kind of story. A story about men who came home from war expecting to be treated as citizens, and finding that expectation betrayed, used their military training to demand what had been promised. They didn't defeat the Klan through moral superiority. They defeated them through superior firepower, superior tactics, and superior discipline. They turned the Klan's weapons against them. They made white supremacists calculate risk. And they proved that when black veterans decided to defend their community, even the Ku Klux Klan backed down. This was never just about guns. It was about dignity, about refusing to be victims, about saying to a system built on black subjugation, "We will not go quietly. We will not beg. We will not wait for your permission. We fought for this country. We are citizens, and we will defend ourselves." Charles Sims, grizzled and gap-toothed, standing in Bogalusa with a rifle across his lap, represented something white supremacy couldn't survive. A black man who refused to be afraid. Multiply that man by hundreds, arm them with military training and modern weapons, organize them with military discipline, and you have what the Deacons for Defense and Justice actually were. Not a revolutionary army, not black nationalists, just American veterans exercising their constitutional rights. When the shooting finally stopped, when the Klan retreated, when federal law enforcement finally arrived to do its job, the Deacons had accomplished something historians still struggle to fully acknowledge. They had protected their community through armed resistance, forced government intervention through the threat of escalating violence, and proved that sometimes the only effective response to terror is the credible promise of retaliation. In Jonesboro, Louisiana, in November 1964, when Ernest Thomas and Frederick Douglass Kirkpatrick called that first meeting of combat veterans, they weren't starting a revolution. They were finishing one. The revolution begun by black soldiers who fought in 2 world wars, came home to Jim Crow, and decided they'd fought their last war for other people's freedom. This time, they'd fight for their own. The Deacons for Defense and Justice existed for less than 4 years as an active organization. But in that time, they changed the calculation of racial violence in the Deep South. They proved that black communities could defend themselves. They forced the federal government to intervene. And they demonstrated that the Second Amendment applied to black veterans too, whether white supremacists liked it or not. When history remembers the civil rights movement, it remembers the marches, the sit-ins, the speeches, the songs. It should also remember the sound of shotguns racking rounds into chambers, the sight of combat veterans standing guard, and the moment the Ku Klux Klan realized that this time someone would shoot back.
Folks, a black church in Washington, D.C. now owns the trademark to the Proud Boys. Yep, you might say, wait a minute, what the heck happened? Well, remember when that racist group vandalized Metropolitan African Methodist Episcopal Church in 2020? Well, they also got sued. Well, on Monday, Judge Tanya Jones Boisier granted the church full ownership of the group's now formerly owned trademark. William Lamar IV is a pastor of Metropolitan African Methodist Episcopal Church. He joins me now in our Black Star Network studios. Pastor, glad to have you here. So this is quite a change. So take me back 5 years ago. What was it? They tore a Black Lives Matter flag down the church?
Yeah, so we had a huge Black Lives Matter sign in front of the congregation in solidarity with the movement. Of course, we know that often the movement and the church were loggerheads, so we wanted to show support for these brave folk who were standing up for us, as we've always stood up for ourselves. And they breached the property, they tore down the sign, and they videotaped it. They put it out on the former Twitter, shouting racist epithets. It was a horrendous scene.
And there were folks who were arrested because of that.
Yes, they were arrested, and we immediately sought legal relief. Immediately.
So you filed the lawsuit, but was part of that lawsuit to get the trademark, or did that?
So we sued them initially for an amount that now is about $3.1 million, and interest is being added. Mm-hmm. And because they did not pay, because they defied the order of Judge Kravitz, we then sued them for ownership of their trademark to get what was awarded to us, because they continue to defy orders. And we will not be quiet. We will not sit back. We will continue to come at them as our ancestors have continued to come to those who visited violence upon us. We won't stop.
And for folks who don't know, listen, when Donald Trump, after inauguration, he immediately pardoned these folks.
Yes.
You had Proud Boys and Oath Keepers.
Yes.
Both of them racist organizations.
Yes.
And so they're so upset with you that they now are trashing you on social media. These, you say your attorney just sent you these. So folks, go to my iPad. And so these are posts that they are putting on social media of Pastor Lamar. You see a bucket of chicken with his face on the front. You see this right here. It says, "A big welcome to the new chairman of the Proud Boys, introducing the Reverend William Lamar IV, more commonly known in the Proud Boy stratosphere as Billy HIV. You see here the autonomous PB would like to welcome our new chairman and trademark holder, Reverend William Lamar IV, pastor of the AME Church in D.C., who now holds the trademark to our name due to the actions and incompetence of our former chairman and his inner circle. We hope this one isn't a federal informant, and for God's sake, they can't even stay away from the Capitol, sir." And then my chairman has his own federally recognized month, owns a sweet, dope-ass trademark, literally owns the previous chairman like a field slave, has never been a certified informant, hates white people almost as much as I do, looks good without a hat on. Look, this is how they behave, and of course, they Proud Boy King. So they're doing this, but and this here says Vice City Proud Boys official Miami chapter, but they use that name anywhere in public, they get slapped with a lawsuit.
Indeed, indeed. We will ensure that this order is enforced, and we will continue to use the courts to get what is due us.
So they think this is a joke, and y'all are saying, no, this is not a joke.
It's not a joke. The firm, Roland, that represented us, represented the Scottsboro Boys, represented Thurgood Marshall and Brown versus Board. They have been doing this for a century. And we have the right partners, and we have the spirit of Elizabeth Freeman, who sued for her own freedom. We have the spirit of Ida B. Wells Barnett. When black AME preachers like myself were afraid to talk about lynching, she continued to go forward. My grandfather said there is no rabbit in him nor in anybody who is a descendant of him. I am not afraid. we will stand up together. We're going to keep fighting and telling the truth like you're doing right now.
You know, we're living in this space right now where there are a lot of black folk who, and they've been on my show, and folks have said, man, look, Ro, we tired, we're depressed, we're upset. You know, we've been fighting. We thought these things were behind us. And I've heard this from millennials and Gen Z. And one of them, I kind of went off on the show, and I was trying not to. And what I said to them was, I took it back to when.
Let's chill. Hold on. I don't want to go there with y'all. Chill. I know we coming off this Roland Martin goof. I know some of y'all love him, but I really don't like him at all.
Okay, picture this. It's the night of May 1st, 1866. Frances Thompson is in her home in South Memphis. She's a formerly enslaved woman. She sews, she does laundry, she's building a life. The war just ended. She finally has something that looks like freedom. Then 7 men kick in her door. 2 of them are wearing police stars. And what happens next, what she does about it, quietly changed the entire direction of American history, and almost nobody knows her name. Stay with me, because before I can get back to Frances, I need to show you how things got so bad that a city just ate itself alive in 3 days. All right, let's talk about Memphis in 1866, because here's the thing people always miss when they talk about this story. They jump straight to the violence, but if you skip the setup, the story doesn't make any sense. You need to understand the city first, because Memphis in 1866 wasn't just a southern town recovering from a war. It was a powder keg with a lit fuse, and everybody could smell the smoke. The Civil War ended in April 1865. Lee surrendered at Appomattox. The Confederacy was done. 13 months later, the Memphis Massacre happens. 13 months. That's how fast things collapsed after people were supposed to be celebrating peace. Now, Memphis was growing fast. Before the war, the black population of Memphis was around 3,000 people. By 1865, 20,000. Think about that for a second. The city's black population literally multiplied by 6 times in 5 years. Why? Because when Union forces captured Memphis in 1862 and set up Fort Pickering on the edge of town, word spread fast. If you could make it to Memphis, you could be free, or at least freer. Thousands of enslaved people from surrounding plantations made the run. Tennessee alone had 45,000 enslaved people in the counties immediately surrounding Memphis. Many of them came to the city during the war seeking the protection of Union soldiers. They set up camps, found work, built communities. They were trying to exist. And right alongside them, a very different group of newcomers was also staking their claim to Memphis, the Irish. Now, this is the part that most mainstream tellings of the Memphis Massacre completely skip over, and it's crucial. Starting in the 1840s, the Great Famine had driven Irish immigrants to America in waves. By 1860, Irish immigrants made up nearly 23% of Memphis's total population. That's almost 1 in 4 people. They had come from famine and absolute misery. They were at the bottom of American society. They faced serious discrimination, too. There's no question about that. But here's where it gets complicated. In the years of Union occupation during the war, former Confederates were banned from holding office. So who stepped in? The Irish. They had held themselves at arm's length from the war, and now they were the most fully enfranchised voting bloc in the city. By 1866, Irish immigrants held the mayor's office, most elected positions, and, critically, about 90% of the Memphis police force. 90% of the police force, Irish. And those cops had spent their whole careers policing black people under Tennessee slave laws. They were used to interacting with black residents from a position of total domination. They could do whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted, and nobody questioned it. Then the war ended, and suddenly armed black men in Union Army uniforms are patrolling the streets of Memphis. One historian put it this way: trying to have these Irish cops police black Union soldiers was like, and I'm quoting here, taking a troop of lions to guard a herd of unruly cattle. That is a description of a situation that was never going to end well. The Freedmen's Bureau, which was the federal agency set up to help formerly enslaved people transition to freedom, was filing reports throughout early 1866 about constant abuse. Black soldiers arrested for minor things, beaten in jail, treated brutally compared to white suspects. The Bureau kept warning, this city is going to blow. And then there's the economic layer, because the Irish and black Memphians weren't just politically clashing. They were directly competing for the same jobs, the same housing, the same social spaces. Working-class Irish immigrants and freed black workers were going after the same slice of a very small pie. Every time a freedman got a job, an Irish laborer felt that. Meanwhile, the white planter class, the old Confederate money, was watching all of this from a comfortable distance, and they had their own agenda. They wanted the formerly enslaved people out of Memphis and back on the plantations picking cotton, because cotton didn't pick itself, and they needed cheap labor to restart their economy. So you've got a huge newly arrived black population just trying to survive, an Irish immigrant police force used to abusing black people with zero accountability, competition for every job, every apartment, every corner of the city. Old Confederate money pulling strings from behind the curtain. The Daily Avalanche, yes, that was actually the name of Memphis's newspaper, was publishing racist content daily, framing the growing black community as a threat to white Memphians. The city had a drunk for a mayor. His name was John Park, and he reportedly showed up to official events hammered. The police chief himself admitted he had basically no control over his officers. And the Union Army? Major General George Stoneman had been told by local officials, "Don't worry, we can keep order. We've got this." So he drew down his forces at Fort Pickering to about 150 men, 150, to police a city of 40,000 people sitting on a racial time bomb. So the stage is set. Now here's the question that I want you to hold in your head as we move forward. When things finally blew, and they were absolutely going to blow, why did it happen on that exact day? What was the specific trigger? Because what actually lit the fuse is almost too small, and that's what makes this story so terrifying. April 30th, 1866. The 3rd United States Colored Heavy Artillery, a regiment of black Union soldiers who had fought in the Civil War, were officially mustered out of service on that day, which means no longer soldiers, civilians, done. They were still living at Fort Pickering temporarily, still wearing their uniforms in some cases because they had no other clothes, but they were now officially just black men in Memphis, not protected by military status, not under the authority of the Union Army anymore, just free men in a city that didn't want free black men. That night, April 30th, the night before everything explodes, a group of police officers came walking down Causey Street. They ran into a group of black men on the sidewalk and forced them off, physically pushed them out of the way. One man fell. A cop stumbled over him. The police drew their revolvers and started pistol whipping people. Both groups separated. But, and this is documented in the Freedmen's Bureau report, they deferred the settlement by mutual consent to some future time. Translation, see you tomorrow. May 1st, 3 to 5 o'clock in the afternoon, South Street, South Memphis. A crowd of black men, mostly the recently discharged soldiers, has gathered. The Bureau report notes that several were noisy and boisterous and more or less intoxicated. These were men who had just been discharged. They were celebrating or processing or just existing in a neighborhood they lived in. Some were drunk, some were loud. 6 white police officers show up. 2 of them arrest 2 black men and start walking them away from the crowd. The others stay behind to keep back the crowd. Then, someone in the crowd tries to rescue the 2 men being arrested. Exactly who started the next moment is disputed. Accounts vary, but shooting breaks out. Here is the crucial detail. The first man killed in the Memphis massacre was a black man named Stevens, and the surgeon who attended him concluded in the official report that he was shot by an accidental discharge of his own pistol. He basically shot himself in the chaos. The second man killed was a white man named Dunn, and the report says he was killed by a white man through mistake. So the opening shots of a 3-day massacre that would kill 46 people, accident, friendly fire, chaos. But it didn't matter, because the moment shooting started, every simmering tension in that city got permission to go active. Within hours, mobs were forming, not just random people either, organized groups of white men and police officers moving through South Memphis. And here's where it stops being a riot and becomes something far more deliberate, because these mobs had a system. They were going door to door. They would surround a home. They'd demand to be let in. If no one let them in, they'd break down the door. Inside, they'd rob everything of value: money, clothes, jewelry, food. They'd beat the occupants. If there were men present, especially men who looked like they might have served in the military, they killed them. And then they'd set the house on fire. The fire department, by the way, was also largely Irish. They showed up to fires in black neighborhoods and watched. Sometimes the firemen joined the mob. The Freedmen's Bureau report describes firemen actively participating in the looting and arson. And here's the question, the second open loop I want you sitting with. The Union Army was right there. Fort Pickering was on the edge of South Memphis. General Stoneman had soldiers. Why did it take 3 days for federal troops to intervene? Hold that. We're coming back to it, because the answer involves one of the most shameful institutional failures of the entire Civil War era, and it connects directly to a political fight happening in Washington that was reshaping America. Let me walk you through the 3 days, not as statistics, as individual moments, because that's the only way this becomes real. Day 1, May 1st. The shooting on South Street was just the opening act. By evening, the mob had grown, and word had spread through the white community of Memphis like a fire of its own. The local newspapers, the Daily Avalanche chief among them, had spent months framing the growing black population as a threat to white Memphis. Now those headlines were real to people who believed them. A black uprising was the rumor flying through white neighborhoods. The actual evidence suggested the opposite. It was black residents being attacked, but in an era with no real-time information, rumors were everything. At Fort Pickering, General Stoneman made a decision that still baffles historians. He ordered the black soldiers of the 3rd USHCA back inside the fort and told them to stand down. These were trained military men. They were armed. They could see their community being attacked from the fort's walls, and they were ordered to do nothing. Why? Because Stoneman worried that black soldiers fighting back would escalate things. He thought, incorrectly, catastrophically incorrectly, that if the black soldiers stayed calm, the mob would burn itself out. The mob did not burn itself out. Day 2, May 2nd. This is the day most historians consider the worst. The mobs were now operating in daylight with full confidence. Why? because nobody stopped them on day one. The Freedmen's Bureau report describes the scene in language that's almost clinical in horror. I'm going to paraphrase it because the original text is that disturbing. Houses were surrounded. Occupants who tried to run were shot in the streets. One woman, Rachel Johnson, was shot first and then thrown into the flames of a burning house. Her body was consumed in the fire. Another woman was forced twice through flames and somehow escaped. Some houses were set on fire, and then armed men stood outside, guarding the exits to prevent people from leaving alive. Let me say that again. They set houses on fire and posted guards to make sure no one got out alive. Henry Jackson, a black man who'd been in Memphis for a year, was just standing with a friend on May 2nd when a cop came by and without provocation grabbed him by the beard and beat him until blood ran down his clothes. No reason, just because he was there. And here's a detail that almost never makes it into the textbooks. Henry Porter, a black man who owned a grocery store in the neighborhood, witnessed the violence firsthand. He watched the murders, the arsons, the robberies. He knew the names of some of the perpetrators, white men he recognized from the neighborhood. He said so later in his congressional testimony. And, critically, he also watched white US soldiers, supposedly sent to restore order, joining the mob. Not stopping it, joining it. The churches went first. Every single black church in Memphis burned. 4 churches, gone in 48 hours. Then the schools. Memphis had 8 black schools, 8 places where formerly enslaved people were learning to read, write, do math, skills that had been illegal for them to acquire just 2 years before. Every single one of those schools was burned to the ground, every last one. Think about what that means symbolically. The mob didn't just want to kill people, it wanted to destroy the infrastructure of black progress. You burn the churches, you destroy the community's spiritual center. You burn the schools, you cut off access to literacy and opportunity. You burn the homes, you eliminate housing and economic stability. It was systematic. And Mayor Park sat on his hands. When pressed on day 2 to request state or federal help, he refused. He would not ask for assistance. The city was officially ungoverned. Day 3, May 3rd. By the morning of May 3rd, the rampage had been going on for about 36 hours. The Freedmen's Bureau was frantically sending dispatches to Washington. The Congressional Committee would later describe what it found as almost incomprehensible. Finally, on the afternoon of May 3rd, General Stoneman declared martial law and sent troops, black and white, into the city. The mob dispersed almost immediately. That's the maddening thing. When the army finally showed up with real force, it was over in hours, which means it could have been over in hours on day 1. By the end, the final count, 46 black people killed. Some estimates say 48. 2 white people killed, one by accident, one by friendly fire. At least 75 black people wounded, over 100 black persons robbed, 5 black women confirmed raped. The actual number was certainly higher. 91 homes destroyed, 4 churches burned, all 8 black schools gone. The economic loss in 1866 dollars was approximately $98,000. In today's money, that's over $1.8 million in property belonging to people who had nothing to start with. And here's what's going to get under your skin for the rest of this video. Not a single person was ever criminally prosecuted for any of it. Not one arrest, not one trial, not one conviction. Okay, I promised you Frances Thompson back at the beginning. It's time. Frances Thompson was born enslaved in Maryland around 1840. She was enslaved by a family named Walker, who, and this is documented, actually recognized her as a girl from childhood. She wore dresses. She presented as a woman her entire life. She walked with crutches because she had cancer in her foot. People in the neighborhood called her Crutchy. After emancipation, she made her way to Memphis and built something. She sewed, she took in washing and ironing. She had a small house on Gayoso Street. She had a roommate, a 16-year-old girl named Lucy Smith. She had a few $100s saved. She had a life. On the night of May 1st, the very first night of the massacre, 7 men came to her door. She knew 2 of them by their police stars. All of them were Irish. They demanded she cook for them. She did. She made eggs and ham and biscuits at 1 in the morning because 7 armed men told her to. Then they demanded more. They demanded a woman to sleep with. Frances refused. They drew their pistols. What happened next is in the congressional record. She testified to it herself, on the record, before a federal committee. She and Lucy were both attacked. Lucy was choked so violently that she couldn't speak for days afterward. Frances was beaten and violated by 4 of the men. They were in that house for nearly 4 hours. When they finally left, they took everything, roughly $300 in cash and savings, which is close to $6,600 in today's money. Everything she had built, gone in one night. She lay in bed for 3 days after. Now here's the layer most people don't know. Frances Thompson is believed to be the first transgender person to ever testify before the United States Congress. When the Congressional Committee convened at the Gayoso House in Memphis on June 1, 1866, Frances Thompson walked in on her crutches, took an oath, and told them everything, every detail. She named the men as Irish. She said she could identify 2 of them as police officers by their stars. She spoke about what they did to her and to Lucy. She did not spare the committee anything. One historian called her one of the linchpins in getting the political will together to pass legislation to protect the civil rights of newly emancipated black people. Her testimony, and the testimony of others like her, was the firepower Congress needed to do what it was preparing to do. But here's where the story takes a brutal turn. 10 years later, 1876, Frances was arrested. The charge? Being a man dressed in women's clothing. Someone had outed her. She was forced to strip in front of officers, forced to take mugshots in both male and female clothing, forced onto an all-male chain gang. Local newspapers ran stories using her identity to try to retroactively discredit her testimony, as if being transgender meant she couldn't have been a victim of gang rape. She told police she had lived her whole life as a woman. She said she believed she was of double sex. She remained defiant even as they humiliated her. She was released from jail and died shortly after from dysentery in North Memphis. She was about 36 years old. And then there's Jane Sneed. Jane came to Memphis in 1862, one of the thousands who made it to the city during the war, seeking freedom. By 1866, she was living near Fort Pickering with her husband and her 14-year-old daughter, Rachel. In May 1st, Jane watched the initial clashes on the street. She saw the mob forming. She saw people being shot at. She got her family inside, and they tried to wait it out. On May 2nd, her daughter Rachel went outside to help a neighbor save belongings from a burning house. A white man shot her. Rachel Sneed, 14 years old, died that day. Jane testified to Congress about what she saw. Her voice is in the historical record because she was willing to risk retaliation to be heard. And these women, Frances Thompson, Jane Sneed, Lucy Smith, and others, gave testimony in a congressional system where black people generally could not testify in Tennessee state courts. Their federal testimony was their only avenue, and they took it. 170 witnesses testified to that congressional committee, most of them black, most of them risking everything to tell the truth. None of their testimony led to a single criminal prosecution. But, and this is the part that matters, their testimony led to something else entirely. Something that permanently changed what America was. Why did it take 3 days for the Union Army to intervene? Here's your answer, and it's bigger than just Memphis. In the spring of 1866, there was a vicious political war happening in Washington, D.C. On one side, President Andrew Johnson. On the other side, the radical Republicans in Congress. Johnson, who was from Tennessee, who had been Lincoln's military governor, had a presidential reconstruction plan. His plan was basically bring the southern states back in quickly with minimal conditions. Yes, slavery is over, but let the southern states manage their own affairs. Don't punish the Confederates too hard. Don't make too big a deal about black civil rights. In April '66, just weeks before the massacre, Congress had passed the Civil Rights Act of 1866 over Johnson's veto. It was the first time Congress had ever overridden a presidential veto on major legislation. The act declared that all people born in the United States were citizens entitled to equal legal protection. He hated it. He was trying to restore ex-Confederate governments across the South. He was actively working to limit black political participation. And General Stoneman, who delayed sending troops for 3 days, was operating in a political environment where the President of the United States was signaling that the federal government should back off from interfering in southern states. Stoneman wasn't just incompetent, he was politically cautious. He didn't want to be the general who escalated a local disturbance into a federal military occupation that embarrassed the president's reconciliation policy. So the black residents of South Memphis burned. When news of the massacre hit northern newspapers, it detonated. The imagery of burned churches, burned schools, murdered veterans, raped women. It was everything the radical Republicans needed to make their case to the American public. This is what Andrew Johnson's lenient Reconstruction looks like, they said. This is what happens when you let the South manage itself. 2 months after Memphis, the New Orleans massacre happened. Same pattern, white police attacking black residents and their white Republican allies. Congress was done. The radical Republicans swept the 1866 midterm elections with a veto-proof majority. They took direct control of Reconstruction policy away from the president. They passed the Reconstruction Acts of 1867, which established military rule over the former Confederate states. They required those states to write new constitutions, granting black men the right to vote. They tied readmission to ratification of a new constitutional amendment, the 14th Amendment, which guaranteed for the first time in the Constitution that all persons born or naturalized in the United States were citizens, that no state could deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process, that all persons were entitled to equal protection of the laws. The testimony from Memphis, from Francis Thompson, from Jane Sneed, from Henry Porter, from 170 witnesses was read aloud in Congress. It was reprinted in newspapers across the North. It shaped public opinion in real time. The Memphis massacre didn't cause the 14th Amendment by itself, but it was one of the most powerful catalysts that made it politically possible. Here's the cruel irony that nobody wants to talk about. The perpetrators of the Memphis massacre, the cops who kicked in doors, the men who set fire to schools, the men who raped women, every single one of them walked free. Local authorities refused to prosecute anyone. Tennessee state courts weren't going to do it, and the federal government, despite having 170 witness testimonies and a 268-page congressional report, had no mechanism at the time to try them. The violence worked in the short term. The message was sent. Black progress in Memphis, the churches, the schools, the community organizations had been destroyed overnight. But in the long game, the violence backfired catastrophically for the people who planned it, because it handed the radical Republicans the political ammunition they needed to transform the Constitution itself. Here's the last thing I want to leave you with. The Memphis Massacre of 1866 was called a riot for a century, a race riot, as if it was two equal groups fighting each other, as if the 46 dead black people and the 2 dead white people were somehow comparable, as if burning every school and every church in a community was just what happens in a heated neighborhood dispute. Historians spent decades reframing it, fighting to call it what it was, a massacre, a pogrom, state-sponsored racial terrorism. The city's own police were the perpetrators. The mayor refused to stop it. The army delayed for 3 days. And it worked. For a generation, white supremacists in the South used the memory of Memphis and events like it as a weapon. You see what happens when you get too ambitious, when you build too much, when you try to vote, to own property, to carry a weapon, to walk on the sidewalk. Reconstruction, the brief, remarkable experiment in interracial democracy, was eventually crushed. By the 1870s and 1880s, the gains were being systematically rolled back. The 14th Amendment stayed in the Constitution, but its enforcement became a hollow joke for nearly a century. The schools that were burned in Memphis, some were rebuilt, some weren't. The families who lost everything, they never got a dime in reparations. Nobody was held accountable. Francis Thompson died at 36 in a North Memphis hospital, having been humiliated, outed, imprisoned, and forced onto a chain gang as punishment, essentially, for having the courage to testify. Jane Sneed buried her 14-year-old daughter. And here's what keeps me thinking about this story. The 170 witnesses who testified to that congressional committee knew there would be no criminal justice. They knew the men who attacked them were walking free in Memphis. They knew that testifying put them at risk of retaliation, and they showed up anyway. Because testimony matters even when the courts fail. Because having the truth in the historical record means something. Because sometimes you fight not for the justice you're going to receive, but for the world you're trying to build. The Memphis Massacre is one of the best documented episodes of 19th century American history. Stephen Ash, the historian who wrote the definitive book on it, called it that. 268 pages of congressional testimony, Freedmen's Bureau reports, newspaper accounts from both sides, affidavits, surgeons' reports. It's all there. And for most of American history, it was just ignored, left in archives, not taught in schools. Ironic, right? They burned the schools, and then history forgot to teach what happened. So, now you know. Share this, tell someone, because the people who testified in June 1866 did it hoping that someday someone would still be talking about what happened. We're still talking. If you want to go deeper on this, and I mean genuinely deep, Stephen Ash's book, A Massacre in Memphis, is the place to start. The congressional report itself is free online, all 268 pages. The National Museum of African American History and Culture has an incredible interactive archive of survivor testimony. Subscribe if you're not already, and seriously, thank you for watching all the way through this one.
See what it say on the screen. Subscribe. It's your boy Dabrand, don't know.
Wounded 21 times.
And we've been here all morning together. And we've practically learned a lot. At least I hope you learned something. With that being said, it's your boy Dabrand, don't know.